Actually, I've had few helps with this slide. Okay, other than doing it on my own, I had help from my own professor mother. So she will help me in the side of social science, because my background is in science engineering, science technology. So of course, I need to share as well the side from social science. Okay, okay, I can see that we have our own students here and also some outsiders. Okay, welcome to this postgraduate series talk that IUKL always organize every semester. So I hope it is beneficial to everybody. Okay, I can also see that there are some of our fellow lecturers, fellow researchers. Welcome. So if you have any question, feel free to uh, write on the chat box. I will answer to my best right after my sharing session. And if you prefer to have an oral question, then you can wait until the end of the uh, slides here. All right, so methodology. Okay, so methodology is in between planning and actually carrying out your research. So it is, well, it is positioned on chapter 3. So it is in between chapter 1 and 2, 4 and 5. So it is in the middle of you are realizing it, whether it is a go to proceed with your research or is it a no-go. Okay, meaning that you have to go back to your objective, go back to your problem statement, whether you have to make a change, whether you have to amend here and there, and so on. All right. So here would be the outline of my sharing session today. We'll have the introduction, research design, research methodology, theoretical framework, and conceptual framework. So basically, this outline, it is following the format of your research methodology chapter. Okay, because in the research methodology chapter, you will have introduction, you will have to write down what are you going to explain within this chapter. You're not going to state like, okay, research methodology is blah 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 blah. You are not going to write that. You are going to outline that in this chapter you will explain on the experimental or the equipment or the study area or all the information that you will provide, that you will explain on how are you plan to carry out this research. Right. Okay, so here are the most common definition for research methodology. Here you can see here, it is a specific procedure or techniques. So here's the outline, procedure and techniques that used to identify, select, process, and analyze information about a topic. So this topic, from the topic, you have established the problem statement, you have established the objectives, you have established the research questions, and from here also you have obtained all the related literature reviews that you will need. All right, so the methodology section allows the reader critically evaluate a study's overall validity and reliability. Here is the keyword for research methodology: validity and reliability. Validity equals reliability, or it can also be validity versus reliability. They are depending or they can be opposed of each other. So in this methodology section, it answers two main questions. How was the data collected and generated? So collected, it can be method, it can be study area, it can be the equipment and so on. Generated, how do you display? How do you present this data and how it will be analyzed, right? So the result of the analysis will be presented in chapter 4, but how do you analyze the result will be explained in chapter 3. So do not get confused in between these two chapters. Some papers, some theses, they have explained the analysis method in chapter 4, which is incorrect. Okay, the method of analysis should be explained in chapter 3. Okay, so the general content in research methodology, you will have your introduction. Okay, you will have your research design. So your research design would be explained as qualitative or quantitative, right? And then research methodology will be related to your sample. Is there any sample that you need to collect? How many samples? How to collect sample? Location, equipment or the instrument that you will use to collect the sample, the data, the procedure, and the analysis method, which will be presented in your theoretical framework and your conceptual framework. These are the main framework that you always refer to when you are talking about your research later on. Okay, and of course, you must have a conclusion. So onto the introduction. Okay, onto the introduction, you will explain on how do you plan to carry out your research methodology. Okay, and then you will come to research design. Right. In writing, you do not write down what is qualitative research, what is quantitative research. Okay, you do not write it down in your thesis. You will not waste one paragraph just to write down what is qualitative and what is quantitative. You don't have to write it down. All right. But you will have to write down your research will be conducted under qualitative or quantitative method because, okay, and then you will state the reasons. Is it because of the data? What type of data? What are you looking for? What do you look at? Okay, so those are the things that important when you are deciding how to conduct your research, whether it is qualitative or quantitative. So here are some of guidelines that you can use to choose whether your research would be qualitative or quantitative. This stage, to choose either qualitative or quantitative, this will be decided in your objective stage. Because in the objective stage, it will be written as the objective of this study would be to what? Do you to obtain? Do you to analyze? Do you to differentiate? Do you to compare or others? Okay, so from those wordings, it will define whether your research would be qualitative or quantitative. Okay, some of you, you has defined this qualitative or quantitative method uh, from the guide of your supervisors. However, it is very important that you understand why you are choosing qualitative or quantitative. These are the most famous dilemma in research students. Yeah. So when we are talking about qualitative, about the quality, it must have a theory. You must refer to a theory. This is very common. Okay, especially if you are comparing or you are producing a new theory or you are developing a new theory. Usually, I'm not to say like common. I'm not say social science must do qualitative method. No, but it is commonly used by social sciences research. Yeah, and then it has to be things up for discussion. Okay, things that the points are up, the keywords must be up to discussions. Okay, it will be based on survey, observation, or interviews. This is how you obtain your data. Okay, so the question that is always asked would be what and how. Okay, what and how. So it will go back to things that is up for discussion here. And most of it, it will be open-ended questions, right? So this is why you have, sometimes you have like up to 10 research questions, up to 10 objectives and up to 10 research questions in your thesis. And then you don't have to have any hypothesis, okay? Because you are not choosing this or that. No, you are not, you don't need the hypothesis. And it can be exploratory from research. Usually this one is when you are doing a comparison of research, you are comparing one over the other and so on. Because again, when you are comparing, then it is a discussion. the discussion has to come from theory. This is the keyword for qualitative. Okay, one source, you will use one source to collect the data. For example, you will use journals or articles or audio. All right, so you will use one source. For example, you always compare journals, you always compare articles, right? So this is how you do qualitative analysis. All right, and then the result that you obtain will have a theme. Okay, we will have a theme. So meaning to say that the theme for your study is what? So the theme would come from your keyword. Okay, so when we are talking about quantitative, you want to prove something. So in your objective, you will have some wordings to prove something. For example, to produce a new formula to calculate blah, 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 blah. Okay, you want to prove something, right? And then it is a concrete discussion, not up for discussion, not this one. It is a concrete discussion, yes or no. Number one or number two. Is it to the right or to the left? That's all. Okay, very quantitative. And it is facts. It has to be based on facts. It is, for example, the formula has to be proven and so on. It is not up to debate. All right, and then you'll be talking about variables. How many variables? Is it dependent or independent variables? All right, and then you will always need to answer question like what, how, and does. What does this mean? This means yes. How do you go here? You have to take the right road. Does this one or two? Or it is two. It is always like that. Okay, so the result will be presented in statistical method. Okay, whether it is statistical graph or it is in pictorial, okay, or pie chart and so on, and it is very rigid and it is not up to a debate. Okay, it is not up to a debate and it is always in statistical numbers. When we say statistical numbers, it doesn't mean that it has to be mathematical research only. It can always be anything. Okay, because we have to go back to the keyword here. Quantitative is to prove something. Qualitative is has to be based by theory. Okay. So now in research methodology, okay, the next part would be the research methodology. How do you carry out the research? Number one, refer to a sample. So how many respondents do you need? You need to use a formula. There are hundreds and hundreds of formula that you can use in order for you to calculate how many respondents do you need. So the respondents will reflect on what is the percentage of reliability or verification of your result. Okay, so of course you must refer to the previous research. Okay, so that this one depends on your literature review. If you are doing research on transportation, so you have to look into the previous research on transportation and look into what was the formula that they used to choose their number of respondents. Okay, and then to check if the sample needs validation. Okay, so validation leads to, do you need to do a pilot study? Right, and then for example, the sample for qualitative analysis, usually it will be related to gender, religion, age, social economy status, and others, whereby you can identify all of these and analyze thoroughly. So the samples, the number of samples, usually this would be one of the website that you can use to calculate the number of samples that you need. All right. So usually, for example, like if you need the confidence level of 95% out of the population size of 10,000, let's say the margin error about 5%, and the ideal sample would be 370. All right. So nowadays, you don't have to like manually calculate everything. Everything is online. So you just enter how many population size that you have, then you can obtain the number of ideal sample size. All right. So in comparison to the others, let's say you want to have a higher confidence level, of course you need a higher sample size. If you have a little bit lower confidence level, then of course the sample size would be less. All right. This one, if we are talking about the population size, if we are talking about like the area or something like that, then you can use the other sampling method. All right. So this is what I always tell my students. You cannot simply choose like, okay, I think today I feel like I want to take 10 sample only for my study. I cannot decide like that. Yeah, it has to be based on the previous literature review, and also you must use a valid equation. All right, it doesn't matter if you are doing social science or communication studies, or if you are using a mathematical or scientific studies, still you need to be based on some reference. Okay, so these are the importance of referencing. Okay, referencing. It doesn't mean that now you are at methodology stage, you don't have to look for other literature. Okay, that is not a good way to think of research, yeah, because when you are determining something, you have to be based on something else that you have obtained beforehand, or any previous research that has been carried out beforehand. So this is why it is very important for you to understand why do you use this kind of calculator, why do you have to have all of this. All right, because it will reflect back on the variability and reliability. How variable and how reliable does the results that you obtain can be used or can be believed. Okay. All right. So other than that, next one, we are going to refer to the location, study area. Okay. So the location and study area, if let's say my topic is like a study on blah, 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 blah in Malaysia, meaning to say that I know the data has to be spread about the whole Malaysia. Okay. But then if I say in Kajang, Selangor, Malaysia, so it is good that I displayed the whole map of Selangor and I pinpoint Kajang. All right. So I pinpoint Kajang here. So it says that, all right, so this data is very reliable. It was taken from Kajang. Okay. I have specified the town, okay, and then the state. Automatically, I will know the country. Better yet, I put the specific coordinate. If you are taking data from various places, put series of coordinates. Okay, so from there, coordinates is very easy to understand. So people will know that, all right, so here are the pinpoint location of the study area or the location of the research that was conducted. All right, or school. Okay, if I say, oh, school in Hulu Langat, Selangor area, so it'll be like that. School in Nepal. Okay, so that is very general. If I say school in Nepal, okay, within the town of blah, 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 then that is very specific. Then I can use one or two literature to, what you say, to compare the result that I obtain now within the same area with the result that was obtained previously, right? So this is how it goes. Let's see. Okay, so now we move on to the equipment and the instrument. All right, equipment and instrument. So it is not only hard copy or not hard copy, a hardware instrument. It is not necessary to be a hardware equipment. Okay, so this would be the example of the hardware equipment. Okay, so from there, when a person chose to use this particular instrument to collect data for his study, then he needs to list down the details about the instrument. So because, you know, as even mobile phone has many series, other equipments and instrument also has their own series with their own specific capability. So this is why you have to list down the details of the equipment and instrument that you use. But it is not only fixed to hardware, all right? So other things, for example, like material. What kind of material do you use? What kind of fabric do you use? What kind of what you call it, the solutions that you use to do your experiment? What kind of mixture that you use to conduct your experiment? Okay, what kind of questionnaire do you use? The questionnaire, it will fall under equipment and instrument. Okay, the questionnaire, is it for online or is it face-to-face? How do you develop the questionnaire? Do you adapt or adopt from the previous studies? Or do you copy off the whole questionnaire? All right. And then how do you collect the data? Is it by interview or is it by observation? All right. Do you do face-to-face interview, or do you do, like, just put a camera at the side and then you record the session and you write down the details? All right. So when you are collecting the data, you have to explain and you have to make sure that you will carry it out in triangulation method. Okay. This triangulation method, it applies throughout any research. Okay. So here I will give you an example. Yeah. Triangulation is actually three ways or sources of getting the data. You must have three sources of getting the data. For example, okay, for research number one, you'll use interview method, observation method, and questionnaire method. All right. It is very general. It can be for any kind of field of study. For research type number two, maybe you use formula, and then you'll use equipment, and then you'll use questionnaire. All right. And then for research number three, maybe you'll use novel number one, novel number two, and then interview. So it is a triangulation source of data. All right. Or it can be equipment number one, equipment number two, equipment number three, for which the data has to come from the same location. Means that you only have one variable. Okay, others maintain. Okay, the purpose of doing this triangulation, again, we go back to the purpose or how to achieve a good methodology would be for validity and reliability. All right, so you want to make sure that you are not out of track of your research, because reliability and validity are concepts used to evaluate the quality of the research. This is what you want to achieve, quality of the research. They indicate how well a method, technique, and test measures something. Reliability is about the consistency of measure, and validity is about the accuracy of a measure. Right? So you want to achieve consistency and you want to achieve accuracy. Even though they are both having different meaning, but they lead to a quality research. Okay, so this would be example. If you are using series of formulas, all right. So from this formula, add on to this formula to develop this formula. All right. Or you are using theory. You have the fundamental theory, and then you have the process. From there, you have the variables. Then you will produce these movements, right? So it depends. This is why it is very important for you to understand what are you achieving actually. All right. Other than that, you can choose the use of hardware and software. All right. And then the validity of the research. So when we are talking about the pilot study, it is for the validity and reliability. So pilot study usually has smaller sample size, because pilot study is actually a study to test your product. Okay. So if there's any changes that needs to be done, if there's any comments that is related to the study, then it still can be done onto the sample before the set of research being given out to others. Right. So you must have other materials. As I've mentioned, the materials, it doesn't have to be fixed solution and so on. It can also be series of prospectus, series of books. These are all materials, right? Or even series of scripts. Okay, you are going to analyze this material. You are going to use this material to obtain your data. So this is why you have to make sure that you are using good and enough number of materials. Remember the triangulation just now. Yeah, so the material, it has to come from 3 different sources so that you will be able to obtain high accuracy results. Okay, so for example, if your respondent, you need to have about 400 respondents, so you have to have various background of results in order to achieve your objective. Yeah, because your objective will reflect back to your keyword will reflect back to your research title. Okay, if you are using series of questionnaire, right? So you must state adapted or adopted from which sets of questionnaires to match with your study. And then how do you develop the questionnaire? Is there any section? Section A, B, C, D, E? How many questions per section? Each section will be questioning which part of the research and which part of the section will answer which part of the study, which objective of the study, right? And then which part that you have to test to the pilot study and data verification. Okay, it's either you do pilot study and then carry out your research, or you carry out the research and you do data verification. So it's either one of these. All right, it doesn't mean that all studies involve questionnaire must have pilot study. It doesn't mean that. Right? You can carry out your research. After that, you validate the data. Yes, you can do that. It's like a reverse process. Yeah. Okay. If you are doing interview or observation, you must have a recording. It's either video recording or voice recording. All right. It's either online or is it a face-to-face? Is it individual or a group interview? Right? Or is it instrument? Is there any instrument that you use? Is there any theory that you want to approach? All right. So for example, if you want to use the face-to-face method, what are the series of questions that will be asked? Do you ask them or do you give them a topic and you just observe from the side? Right? Research methodology, you must explain the procedure. The procedure means the steps of getting the data. All right, the steps of getting the data. Do you use any software or programming language? So you have to explain the steps. All right, so the steps will be explained a little bit more in the analysis method. If you are doing statistical method, you can use a statistical software. How do you plan to validate the data? Do you do observation or do you do further interview? All right. Or is there any theory or method that you have to prove before you are proposing your own research? All right. So is there any equations that you want to prove? Right. And then how do you display or portray the end result? Do you display in a map? Do you display in table? Do you display in pie chart? Right. Or do you display in software, or do you design a new device? Okay, so for example, how do I plan to analyze the data collected? All right, so from the first, this is the example, yeah. So from the first equation here, from room data, I will obtain the building data, and from the building data, I'll be able to come up with the index. All right, so these are the process. How do I obtain this? Where does this come from? It will come from the formulas that I have adapted and adopted before. Okay, from the literature review that was published before. Why do I need to produce this? Because this is for tropical building environment. So that will come from my objective. Okay, if there is no new objective, then there is no need to conduct the study. Okay, so this is very important when you are explaining how do you analyze, how do you come up with this final result? How do you analyze, or how do you come up with the ways to explain about the final result? All right, so for example, other example would be for coding a script. Okay, coding a script. You remember just now there was a script on ghost, this one. Okay, this one is a normal script, and then the script, it is a material given to a group of students. Then now you want to analyze what were the comments from the students. Okay, so you do a coding. Story number one, line number one. Who says this? Who says that? Who and who? What does it mean? Okay, you have to explain. How do you decode this? Another coding. Student number one from group number one. What did he say? What was his opinion? He will be analyzed based on whose theory? Okay, so the theory will come from the previous literature review as well. So other coding would come from company number one, question number one. If we are talking about question and survey, so company number one says question number one, this answer was correct. Okay, so why does he say correct? It will be analyzed on the theory from a person before. Okay, so it will always go back and back like that. So when we want to produce a theoretical framework, we want to understand more on the theories that we refer to, right? So the theoretical framework connects the researcher to existing knowledge, and guided by relevant theory, you are given a basis for your hypothesis and choice of research method. Okay, and articulating the theoretical assumptions of a research study forces you to address question of why and how. So this is an example of a theoretical framework. Looks very, very, very simple because it just mentioned like what are the factors, what am I going to use as the defining tool, and then what would be the data collected, how to present the data, and what is the result. However, I've inserted theory that I will use to compare and to refer to, which is theory of the power formula. Okay, so over here, I will have to explain what is the power formula that I'm referring to, and also how do I compare when I've collected all of this data. In comparison, okay, this is another example. That one was very straightforward mathematical formula. But if you are using like other formula, other theory, for example, this is a discourse analysis theory for communication. All right, I have to draw and explain and discuss in 2 to 3 pages of this theory. For example, I will draw the outline of the theory that I will use. Okay, discourse analysis theory by Brown and Yule, 1983, on presupposition, on implicature, on reference, and on inference. So I will have to explain what's the basis of discourse analysis theory and explain one of these subtopics and discuss. When we say discuss, we will always have similarities or oppositions from one item to the other. That is discuss, right? So this is why it is important for you to explain in detail why you are choosing this theory. Okay, so 2 to 3 pages is enough. Okay, to prove that the reasons of you using the theory. In comparison to the conceptual framework, it illustrates more detail of your research. All right, it defines the variables that you are going to use, any map. All right, and then data collection that you will need, and also how do you plan to visualize it. Okay, it also will enable you to define the dependent and independent variables. Okay, so let's look at the example. Okay, so this one, it looks like very, very simple one, but it actually explains the whole concept of the research that you are designing. The theoretical framework is the basic, the conceptual framework is the detail. Okay, we don't say like, oh, what is the flow chart of your study? We rarely say that, because in research we always say framework, because we will work from this framework. Okay, so from here we can see that, okay, title of the study, problem statement, contributing factors. Okay, here is to achieve the first objective. And then collecting data, what is the mathematical model, development of the index, all right, achieve second objective. Then to validate the data, not validated, I have to re-experiment. If yes, then you have the result, and then you will have the third objective, display of the result that you want to obtain. Okay, so this is how actually one of the trick to design or to write your objective wordings. Okay, to what do you want to obtain, and then what do you want to compare, and what do you want to achieve actually, yeah. So this is a good way to do that. So if you have three objectives, you can design your conceptual framework something like this, right? Or it depends on your discussion with your supervisors, because sometimes this is not a fixed framework, yeah, because it depends on your research study as well as the discussion that you have with your supervisor. So this is why it is very important for you to really understand what is your theoretical and conceptual framework. You will work from there. Okay, sometimes people will do this framework first, then they will start their introduction, objective, literature review, and so on. Some people, they will finish off the whole thesis first, then only they will be able to come up with the conceptual framework. Okay, it depends on what is the strategy, what is the method of your research, qualitative or quantitative, what would be the methods, how many data do you need, and so on. All right, so it works together. Again, methodology, it is not like literature review. Once you are done with chapter 3, you are done. No, it is not like that. It is an ongoing process as well. Because sometimes when you are trying to do the analysis and maybe you find out that the theory that you want to use to analyze your result is like not reliable, then you have to change the theory. Now you have to go back to methodology, change the theory, you have to go back to literature review, change the literature review. Okay, so it is an ongoing process, never to fix or rigid your mindset, yeah. Okay, so the most common questions that you will have in mind, or most of my students will ask this, what would be the best method to carry out this study? Is it qualitative or quantitative method? Okay, so this one you already be able to answer based on the tick list just now that I have listed, qualitative versus quantitative. Okay, and then what kind of hardware that you use, or do you use software, or do you use both of them? Okay, and how do you display the data? Is it in pictorial or chart, or do you explain in words? Okay, how many pages should it be for this chapter? This is the favorite question, because most students, they like to estimate their amount of work that they have to put in to complete a particular chapter. All right, so for methodology, I can safely say that about 10 to 15 pages, depending on your writing. If you have more equipment, then you have more pictures, or if you have more study area, you have more maps, then it might increase the number of your pages. So usually about 10 to 15. Okay, and then how complex must the method be? Depending on the level of your research. Do you do a normal comparative research paper, or do you do master's research, or do you do PhD research? Okay, or do you do a new grant research? Yeah, if you are doing like FRGS, fundamental research, it is the same level as the PhD. All right. Okay, now that is the end of my sharing. Oh, I thought there's more, but there's none. Okay, so now question time. Let's see on the chat room.
This is Bal from Nepal.
Yes.
Can I continue?
Yes, please.
Uh, Actually, I got a great important information from you in the methodology section, but I have a little confusion that the methodology in the methodological chapter it is not mentioned, but in IUKL presentation outline, methodology and study flowchart is given. Methodology and study flowchart. And I sometimes heard from other friends that methodology and methodological flowchart. So I'd like to ask you, what is the difference between methodological flowchart or study flowchart? And
Okay.
whether it should be the methodological flowchart should be included in methodology chapter or
Okay, so for your methodology, like the one that you can see here, okay, this is the outline of your methodology chapter writing.
yeah.
Okay, when you are writing your thesis, this would be a general outline, not a must, but general outline, because sometimes you will need to have more subtopics somewhere in between, right? And of course, advised by your supervisor. Okay, so now what's the difference between the study flowchart and the methodological flowchart? So the methodological flowchart, it is something like this framework. Okay, this study framework. Okay, I'll make it smaller. The study framework like this. Okay, but the study flowchart, it is like the action that you want to take in order to complete your study. Usually that one will be designed on your own. It's not necessary to be included in the chapter. Usually students will not include that in the chapter.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
welcome. All right, hang on. I will read some questions that I got in the chat box here.
I have a question for Dr. Alia.
Yes, doctor.
Your PowerPoint 4 regarding general content in research.
Yep.
Okay.
Let me go back to that.
Do you mind explaining what does it mean by equipment and instrument? I always get confused.
I mean, by looking at the wordings, usually equipment will refer to like any like physical device. Okay, like for example, a machine or a temperature humidity meter that I always use, or surveying equipment. Okay, but instrument, it can be both. Okay, it can be hardware or software or soft copy. For example, if you are using series of storybook as your sample, that is the instrument as well.
I see.
So it is like when we are putting a subtopic, we have to explain what do we mean by the instrument that we are using.
I see. So we need to choose one, yeah, equipment or instrument, right?
Sometimes you need both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because maybe you need one part for pilot study and then another part for your actual study, or you need that part for your study and another part for your validity of the study. Because in methodology, you have to have either pilot then research or research then validity.
That is for quantitative research, right?
Quantitative and qualitative both. It depends on the it depends on the objective.
I see. All right. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor. Okay, so now I'm reading some of the question from hang on. Let me see. I've read.
Hello.
Reading a question. Okay, from Xiu Liling, a question with regards to the theoretical and conceptual framework. Some researchers urge that a theoretical framework is the literature review, and thus it should be discussed in chapter 2. On the other hand, some interpret conceptual framework as the analytic framework, and therefore it should be developed in chapter 3. What are your thoughts on this? Actually, theoretical framework from your question, meaning to say that the study or the background information that you have obtained based on literature review on choosing which theory that you will use for chapter 3. Okay, yes, you can present it in chapter 2. There's no problem. There's no a must when you are presenting the theoretical framework. There's no a must that you put it in chapter 3. You can discuss and display in chapter 2 as well. Yes, I do agree on this part. However, the conceptual framework, it is not only on analytical framework. We are not only focusing on the analysis method of the research. We also need to explain the data collection method, we need to explain the analysis method, and we need to explain the detail method, the display detail method. So this is why it is important to have the framework, conceptual framework, and explain about the framework, not only displaying. Yeah. Okay, and then I hope that answers your question. And then Archute is asking me, is it necessary to elaborate on what type mixed method I am applying? For example, concurrent mixed method, sequential method, or other. Yes, you have to elaborate why. You have to explain in relation to the data that you will collect. Okay, that will enhance the understanding of why you are choosing this method with this method or this method over this method, right? So you have to explain, because in chapter 3 is very crucial. It is in between proceed or not proceed. Yeah. And then Siu Liling is asking, some qualitative researchers are of the opinion that triangulation is not necessary for qualitative study. What are your thoughts? Uh, in my own personal opinion and what I've always do, I do the triangulation method. Okay. The reason is that not to say that, oh, I want to have confidence in my data, blah, blah, blah. Not to say that, but this is how I obtain a high accuracy result for my most of my studies. Yeah. Because of course, even though quantitative data is like yes or no only, but then I do have like a better result when I'm obtaining it in triangulation method, when I get my data from triangulation method. Okay, so we have SR Faiza is asking how to help our student to measure the correct number of respondent questionnaire survey so that our analysis would be more valid and strong. Okay, so you can easily use any formula that is available. You can get it online for free. Okay, that was my example was one of it was this one. Okay, my example was this one. You can use this, or you can use any other reliable sources to calculate your data, because previously when one of my postgraduate students was doing a study on building demolition products and so on. So he has problem to get the data because not so many companies are doing it. So we go by the number of company. Okay, we don't go by population. So we use a different formula. There are many formulas that are reliable, so feel freely to advise our students to use one of it, because that will ensure the validation of the data that we collected. Okay, madam? Right. Okay, and then Ned is asking, my supervisor advised to find established instruments for the variables. However, the theories underpinning for my 9 variables derive from 4 different theories. I think it's a lot because some of my friends only use 1 to 2 theories. What do you think of this? How can I move forward? This one is very interesting. But then, um, may I know which level of study that you are doing, Ned? If we are talking about PhD level, then 9 is okay, yeah, because we have most of our PhD students, they have like 10 instruments, for example, 10 storybooks to analyze based on 10 variables that they have to look into. Okay, Achut, could you please elaborate on triangulation again? Okay, triangulation. Okay, so this is triangulation. This is the keyword, yeah? Three ways or sources of getting the data. How do you get the data? Okay, usually you need like one of it to be from three parts. For example, how to get the data? Same students, but from interview, from observation, and from questionnaire. Okay, or you have three types of equipment. It has to be from the same data and the same location, but you are using equipment 1, equipment 2, and equipment 3. So this one, I think more towards comparison and validation of your data. Yeah. So I hope this one you will understand more when you are choosing how to get the data and how to get the data for your study. Okay.
Dr. Siti.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Madam.
Mahidah, yeah. You did not emphasize on research ethics and confidentiality, because I'm working with the Ministry of Education,
Right.
so data from whole of Peninsula Malaysia, but Ministry asked me to, do not expose the data.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, there's nothing in your slides with regards to ethics, and
I forgot. I missed that part.
you did put up on location, I think.
Okay, so for that, usually
Thank you,
because
Doctor.
thank you, madam. Let me see coding. Okay, so for the purpose of protecting the data, right?
Ah,
I believe that's what you mean, yeah.
yeah.
Okay. This one we always use coding. Okay, and we always use coding, and we don't expose the actual information, because at the back of your thesis you have written you are going to write like all the data are confidential, blah blah blah, due to the ministry and so on, right? So when you are putting on the key points or the keywords of the data that you've collected, you always use coding. For example, okay, student number 1 from school number 1 from state number 1. So you will use coding, because what we want is not to know the detail about it, but we want to extract the information, the data. What does the student say? What is the feeling of the student? What is the communication behavior of the students? These are the things that we always research when we are doing research on, especially for Ministry of Education, regarding the school students or the behavior and so on. So we always use coding. So when we extract the information, we always use coding, but we do not put the actual thing into your thesis, right? You always use coding. So you do a lineup. Okay, student number 1, group number 1, school number 1 says this. Okay, all right. So let me give you an example. Yeah.
Exactly. Give an example.
Let me, how do I do this? Okay, so for example, you have a student number 1, and then student 1, school 1. Okay, and then here, let's say your communication strategy. There are, for example, 5 communication strategy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So student number 1 from school number 1 has communication study number 2, communication study number 4. Student number 2 from school number 1. So you will have communication strategy 1, 2, 3 only. So you just explain about the communication strategy, and you explain who are your samples, but the details about it we don't display, we don't disclose. because that is confidential. This is how
Exactly.
usually, this is how usually we do that. But then how you analyze it based on the theory from this communication strategy. Not we are not analyzing the student, we are analyzing this one, right? So this is how we differentiate. So this is how also we will protect the data.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you so much.
All right.
Okay,
I think it
Professor.
helps.
Can I say something, Professor Alia?
Yes, please.
If you allow me, I'm Shah Alam.
Yep.
Are you?
Sure, please proceed.
Okay, I'm a very new student here in IUKL in the second semester.
Right.
Unfortunately, not going to Malaysia now. But I'd like to, as a new student, sometimes I'm at the beginning feeling some confusions about selecting methodology, as it is usual for me. So I'm for asking, getting some help from you. You discussed in your in your papers about what should I say, quantitative and qualitative approach. Sometimes as a new student, I'm going to select my methodology, and it is easy for me sometimes that mixed method would be easier for me to select. I'm not sure what I'm doing, but if you want to, if you say that something about mixed, whether it will be easier to go into the matters of that I'm going to research one. So quantitative or qualitative will give some other side one, something in detail observation, some is quantitative, that is giving us another dimension. But if it is mixed, then will it be easier for us to go for mixed, or you can say something about mixed, so that will be helpful for me. Thank you.
Okay. Actually, Faisal also asked about that. Can you talk a bit about use of mixed method, quantitative and qualitative? Right. So this one is a little bit of mixed, but then usually this one is PhD level. Usually lah from my past experience. So when doing research on the PhD level, whether you are the students or you are the supervisor, I do believe in it is so hard to decide which part that you want to focus on, whether the first two chapters to do quantitative and then the last part to do qualitative and so on. But usually that's the case. So the first part of your study, like for example, the first two objectives to identify or to analyze and so on, that one you will have to use quantitative. But then when you want to find out, when you want to obtain like a new theory or you want to produce a new thing, then that one will come to qualitative study, right? So what you have to do is you have to arrange on to the base of what are the things that you identify: data collection method, qualitative study, but analysis method, quantitative study. It can be like that as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
So that one you have to confirm with your supervisor. I believe they all are very well aware of what you are doing. So it's just a matter of confirming that with your supervisor, because when you have produced your theoretical framework like this, it is easier to see. For example, like this part is quantitative, and this one is qualitative. This is a mixed one. Example of a mixed method. Okay, so you can because here you can see identify the factors and then development by mathematical model, and then here is the development of the mapping. So it is a mix of both. I believe um, I believe there are a lot of studies that has having a mixed method. Yeah, so make sure that you really understand. Okay, so there's no wrong in having a mixed method. You can have both of them.
Thank you.
All right, so hang on. I have still there is a confusion. Mahendra is having a confusion on theoretical framework and conceptual framework. Please say some basic keywords to understand them. Okay, so theoretical framework is something like this. The one that you always refer to is like just a basic framework which theory or which literature review that you will use to find the keywords of your study. Okay, this one will be based on your keywords, means that your keywords will come from your objective. Okay, and your objective will come from your title. So these are all the keywords part. Okay, there's no right or wrong. Okay, it doesn't mean that, oh, this one has to be the factors, this one has to be the objective. No, there's no right or wrong, as long as you have the framework that to highlight the theories, right, that you are going to look into for your study. But for a conceptual framework, it will be divided into more details and more parts like this, more objectives, right? So it will explain a little bit more on all of these parts. But then again, there's no right or wrong, because I do know that some of the studies, they have like more than 5 objectives. So you have to rearrange the framework so that it matches with your study. It doesn't have to go across down here. It can go across left to right. Okay. And it also can go up to many like a snake shape of framework. Yeah, because sometimes the third line match with the first line, the second line match with the fifth line, and so on. So we want to see the lines of the relationship in between the items here. Okay, Rijal is asking, what is the actual population? What if the actual population are big, like more than 400K? Ooh. How to minimize the sample size to suit the study? So you can do by ratio. Here you can use a ratio. So if your study is 400,000 population, so if you reduce by ratio, let's say 400, okay, so you reduce by ratio of 1,000, so you can reduce the required sample from that by 1,000, by 1,000 fraction. Yeah, so but then Mr. Rijal, I'm not so sure if you can, I think it is better, in my opinion, it is better for you to reduce the number of sample size, meaning to reduce the area, to reduce the study area. Let's say instead of focusing on this whole state, or maybe you want to focus only on a district or a city, then that is one of the way to reduce your sample size and to reduce the respondents required. Yeah. Oh, Net was asking, oh, PhD level. So Net, PhD level, 9 variables, that one is normal, yeah. I think not, I think there's a lot to do, but that is the level. Okay, and then Faisal, okay, I've answered your question. Abraham, oh, hi, Mr. Abraham. How do you explain while working under qualitative approach? Sometimes we use some mathematical methods like trend analysis. When do you say exactly this makes type or not? So mathematical method, mathematics, it is commonly we will say quantitative, right? But then I do know, because you are doing spatial analysis, right? So when we say spatial analysis, means that we are talking about geographical area, geographical respondents, and so on. So that one falls under qualitative. So that one, again, that one is a mixed mode.
Doctor,
Yes, Miss, Madam.
what about the different type of sampling method?
Right.
We got
Method,
different
yeah.
stages, sampling method. Do you have that in your slide?
I think so. Hang on, yeah. Example.
The cluster random sampling.
Oh, that one's the name of the sampling
Multi-stage.
method, right?
Yeah.
In statistics. So that one, how do you use which sampling method that you want? That one, usually I will always tell students refer to the previous studies that is related. Yeah, that will be our benchmark. Unless it is a different area, different country, different background, or even different field of study. For example, Madam is doing sample students from science background, and the reference is using a sample from communication background. So that is the difference. So we have to find what's the common variable that they are using there. Then we can choose that as our guideline for sampling method.
Right. Thank you, Doc.
All right. Thank you, madam. Okay. We have, okay. Xiu Liling. To paraphrase your opinion on conceptual framework given earlier, do you mean that conceptual framework does not only involve the display of research flowchart, but you also need to explain the research design tools and analytical method for the study? Yes, I always advise my students to do that. At least a simplified one. For example, tools, maybe they can list out the equipment that they use or the type of questionnaire surveys, the referencing and so on. Yeah, and also the analytical method. For example, if they use one of the algorithm in SPSS, yes, they have to write down or include that in their conceptual framework. Okay, and then Wu Yimeng, I think this you were doing, if I'm not mistaken, you were doing landscape architecture with me, right? Okay. Can literature comparison methods be used in qualitative research? All data are collected from online books journals, analysis data, and gives discussion. I'm confused about this method. Could Madam please explain more? Yes, can, because qualitative based on theories, but if you only compare, that is not a research, that is a comparison. So you must have additional objective as to what do you want to achieve after comparison. Okay.
Hi, Dr. Alia.
Hi, Dr. Elisha.
Yes, thank you. Wonderful presentation. Very rich. Very rich. Yes. So, yeah, I always have a problem with most of my students, especially at the earlier stages of research, those who are doing their masters, and this problem always goes on up to PhD, and I always want to make sure that my students read a lot and understand, because at the end of the day, I get I also get confused whether the students understand what is the relationship or what is the difference between research methodology and research methods. So most of these students, they find it very difficult to distinguish between the two. I don't know if you can talk a little bit about it, the distinction, the relationship, or the differences between the research methods and research methodology.
Okay. Okay. So, is there any question, Dr. Elisha?
That's my question. Yes.
Oh, that's all. Okay, so research method and research methodology. It is a very crisscross topic, yeah, since the wordings are almost the same. However, research method, it is more towards on what are the methods that you want to use to carry out your research or to obtain the data for your research. Okay, the methodology are the steps. Okay, so I always, that's my personal point of view, and that's how I always explain to my students. So the method is like general step, but methodology is more towards the details about it. For example, I want to carry out a research, I need to collect the data. That is a method. Okay, how do I collect the data? Okay, I need to have instrument. That is the methodology. All right, so that's what I always explain to my students. But then it depends on their understanding as well. So if they feel that by achieving one of it can comply with the objective of their study, so I don't have any problem with that. That's my personal opinion. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Alia. Because why I raised this is because mostly the research methodology section, like you say, it is falling in between the upper two chapters, maybe the introduction and the literature view, and then before you go to your results analysis and conclusions and so on and so forth. We have our research methodologies in between there. But sometimes you will find our students just mentioned that under the research methodology, quantitative research, and then they say, some of them will just say questionnaire method is going to be used as the research methodology. So yeah, yes, especially for the master's students. So like you explained, I think it is very important for the students to go in deeper and find out the relationship between these. The research methods, if they are grouped together and they are analyzed and they are purposefully assigned to achieve the objectives, then they become the research methodology. Yes. So that's what I wanted to highlight to the students, that there is a difference between research methods and research methodology, and it is important for them to be able to highlight those differences.
Yes, that is so correct. Yes. Okay, any other question? Actually, I will be sharing the slides.
Dr. Norzita, maybe we are having some connection problem with Dr. Alia.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes.
Right. Now, while waiting for Dr. Alia to be back online, I would like to remind everyone to fill out the attendance list. Yeah, the link is given in the chat box. Please do so that we can email you the materials. The materials are the slides and also the recording of the session. Okay, so if you want the materials, please fill out the attendance list, yeah, so that the center can capture your email address and send you the materials, yeah, for you to come back to it and revise accordingly. All right, okay. I think Dr. Alia is disconnected already, yeah, I don't see her here. Dr. Tadiwa, there, Dr. Alia is back.
Yeah, she's back, yes.
Yes, all right. Okay, Dr. Alia, please continue. I was just reminding the participants to fill out the attendance list, yeah? So please continue if you have anything else to say.
Dr. Norzita, we have also one microphone. I think it's muted, making a sound, a background sound. Yeah, it's okay now. Yeah, still got one microphone making a very bad sound at the back there.
My postgrad students, Miss Basori, any question? Who else I can see here? Okay, Mr. Ali. Doctor, could you put lights on the research philosophies, research approach, and research strategy on grounded theory, ethnography? and the difference between philosophies and paradigms. Wow, I think this one I need to like do another research. Okay, I am not so sure if I can say anything on this. Research philosophies. Can you explain a little bit more on this grounded theory and ethnography? Is Mr. Ali here?
I think Dr. Alia, what Mr. Ali is referring to when he talks about ethnography, grounded theory, and so on and so forth. Those are the bases on which the research is based on. The basis on which your research is based on. Is it based on a grounded theory? Are you trying to prove that according to this theory says that if you throw an apple up, it will fall down because of gravity? That is a grounded theory. So you can extend it to other applications and so on and so forth. So you are right. It might need a bit more specific presentation to cover these the differences between philosophies and paradigms and so on and so forth. We are now getting deeper into the research. Yeah. So and then it also applies to it cannot be explained in generality like on this platform where you are trying to give in general applies to everyone. So maybe Dr. Norzita can take note and find someone to go deeper and give us these specific based questions like how do you address this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
These topics, the philosophies, research approach, and so on. I think I am not familiar with all of this because my approach is always on technical. My approach is very straightforward, very technical, and on the theoretical part and so on. I think I have to study more in order to do more sharing sessions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dr. Alia, actually in social sciences, because Dr. Alia is from technical background, she's from engineering. In social sciences, particularly from communication, we have different paradigms of philosophies. It is upon the philosophy or paradigm that we design the research, we design our frame our research. For example, we have positivism. In positivism, normally if you design your research using positivism, then you will end up having quantitative research design. So that's how you explain why you go for quantitative, why you do survey, for example, because you subscribe to positivism as a paradigm, or philosophy in your study, all right? Or if you go for example, interpretism, then you would go with that philosophy, then you normally would go for, sorry, there's some noise there. Let me just, okay. You would go for something qualitative, So the paradigm or the philosophy behind a research, will determine the design of the research. And in communication, for example, that is important because a PhD is a contribution to the knowledge, the body of knowledge, So how you contribute is actually very much, it has got, Doctor of Philosophy has got to be philosophical, So that's how you look at the philosophical area when you do your PhD PhD thesis. Yeah, so I'm not too well aware of business because I'm aware that Ali is a PhD BA student, but in communication, that's how we explain, yeah, how we look at the role of philosophy in designing our research. Yeah, and grounded theory, if I am not mistaken, yeah, so we have Prof. Farida here. Prof. Farida can be talking more about the paradigms and stuff. Yeah, but anyway, grounded theory is starting a research practically with nothing. Yeah, nothing in the sense that you have listened to Dr. Alia explaining, sharing how important theories are in our research design, yeah, to frame our research design. But grounded theory, okay, so like what is mentioned by Dr. Alia, it is meant to confirm, it is meant to test the theory. So these theories are already existent, all right? But when we look at grounded theory, we're starting on basically nothing, all right? We would like to understand something. So it is not fair to be putting a theory in your design if you are looking at something that you have no idea about yet, all right? So you're exploring something really new. So when we look at grounded theory, we're starting on an area which is new, which is not much yet explored, yeah? So that's when we use grounded theory. So that's why it's grounded, yeah? It's on the ground, yeah? You're starting from zero there. So that's grounded theory. You don't have as much reference, yeah, to the theories, for example, because the moment you subscribe to a theory to set the design of your study, you are limiting yourself into looking the new frontiers or possibilities of looking at new findings. Yeah, so grounded is you're starting like, this is a new, normally it's meant for new area. You don't have much done yet, yeah, and you want to explore the area more. Yeah, when you look at ethnography, on the other hand, yeah, the researcher is very much part of the research. Example, if you want to understand a lifestyle of a community, then you have to live with them, you have to experience, yeah, and ethnography takes a longer duration, yeah, perhaps it takes 4 or 5 years, for example, but you got to be, as a researcher, you got to be part of the community to be able to understand the process. Yeah. Now, this is in contrast with quantitative design. Quantitative design, you're not supposed to be part of the research process. Yeah. Positivism paradigm of philosophy, researchers are not supposed to be part of the process. It is an objective process. So when you design a survey, whatever, you're not supposed to be involved in the process. Yeah, it's very objective. But with qualitative, yeah, you may be part of the process, and I think you should be part of the process when you do interview, when you do focus group, yeah. But with ethnography, you gotta be part of the process, yeah. You have to be there, experience things, yeah, and then you come out with, whatever, all right. But in communication, normally ethnography is done or is employed, yeah, when people would like to understand more, for example, certain communities' lifestyle, for example, certain communication strategy used by a certain group of people, for example, yeah. But in short, all right, I'm not the best person to be talking about this. Prof. Farida would be way better, but just sharing from the perspective of communication, that is how the paradigm or the philosophy plays its role in the research design. So when you do your viva voce, for example, yeah, when you explain the philosophical part, if you're a doctor of philosophy, that is the philosophy, okay, how the entire research is designed upon the paradigm or the philosophy that you subscribe to, whether it's positivism, yeah, whether it's interpretism, yeah, or whether it's, there are a number, yeah, but of course, that would require a different set of session, all right. The center can consider that, yeah, because today is only an introduction to methodology, yeah, because yes, yeah, when we look at philosophies, when we look at design, that is, of course, a very important part of research, because that determines the entire framework that we use for our research, yeah. But of course, I can work with my team to look at another session, perhaps, to address this. And I understand that, yeah, for example, in the members of the audience, we have people coming from social science background, and we also have people coming from the technical background, yeah. So for example, Dr. Alia is a speaker from the technical background. Yeah, technical background is normally very very technical. They are very objective. Yeah, as compared to social sciences. Yeah, social sciences can, you know, can go more into the ethnographic grounded sort of approach. Yes, yes. Okay. So Ali, let me get back to my team. Yeah, see how we can address, perhaps provide another session next semester, perhaps. Yeah, and yep. Okay, I think that's a very good question. All right. We can consider.
When Dr. Norzita was explaining about the grounded and the ethnography theory, etc. Actually, in science tech also we are having the same method, but we use a different term. So basically, yeah. So you know all these very philosophical words. We are not very usual to use it. However, the methods are the same as well. If we are starting from the ground, we have other terms, and if we are studying based on other theories, we also have other terms. But bottom line is, I do agree with Dr. Zita and Dr. Elisha is that we have to determine the what's the basis of the research method that we want to approach before we can proceed with everything. Because as I've mentioned, research method is in between before and to actually do and carry out the research. So it is very important to understand about that. Right. Any other question?
Okay, sorry, Dr. Alia, I would like to just remind the participants to fill out the attendance list, so that we can capture your email address and email you the materials so that you could always go back to the recording as well as the slides, so please do that in between before you leave the session. All right, thank you. All right. Anything else? Any other questions from the participants? So this paradigm of philosophy is applicable to Doctor of Philosophy students only. So for master students, not yet. That's why in the degree it's not stated philosophy there as opposed to Doctor of Philosophy. All right. So so
PhD, we're doing fundamental research.
Yes.
So this is why it is called philosophy.
Yep. All right. Okay. Anything else? Anything else? Oh, any other questions to Dr. Alia? Okay. While waiting, perhaps some of you would want to ask questions later. Let me share with you.
The question. Sorry, Dr. Zita.
Okay.
Got a question from TS Soimi.
Okay.
My question is what is the effective way to get an information from other journals or research paper when we review it as our reference? Effective way. Oh, means do you mean the source of literature reviews? So nowadays, I do believe there are so many free of charge journals online, or most universities, they have subscribed into the online databases for online journals, so we can go through there. And the key point, this one I've mentioned in my literature review session 2 weeks ago, is to look for the keywords. From the title of your study, you will have the keywords, or if you have an interest of the field of study that you are doing, you have to outline the keywords and you search on the keywords first. Okay, onto these databases, and then you will extract a lot of papers from there, and you look into the abstract, and then from the abstract you can see what are the theories that they are using, or what are the research methods, where do they collect the data from, where are their study areas, and so on. So that would be a good reference to start off with your maybe theoretical framework, and then to proceed to your conceptual framework, and work your way back to literature review. I hope
yes. Yes, Dr. Alia, thank you very much. This part, a lot of our students, they get lost They get lost, especially at the beginning. So I'm glad Mr. T.S. Suhaimi have asked this question. You answered it already in the first session, but I also need to emphasize, not to emphasize, to highlight how I also try to help my students to get the most important information from the journals. If you just go there and hit on the internet, you are going to get millions of papers, and you cannot read all the papers. Even if you read all the papers, by the time you get halfway, you are confused which one to take and which one to take. So the process I use is, first of all, I categorize my papers according to the function and the need. What am I looking for? So I have like a literature review map, which is specific that I'm looking for this kind of information. So I start with the topic first, get the topics, then I highlight all the topics or download all the papers with the topic which is related to what we are supposed to do. From then, I ask my students if they agree or understand the topic, they move in to read the abstracts for all the papers. If you do not understand the abstract, or if it does not give you what you want, you throw it away. And if you understand and you agree with the abstract, you keep it. And then the second, after the abstract, you go straight to the conclusion. Because if you are looking for results, if you are looking for figures, if you are looking for conclusions, you get them in the conclusion section. You read the conclusion. If you get what you want and you understand the conclusion, you can keep that paper and you can use that information for reference. Rarely do we go into the body of the paper to look for the information. But if we want to understand how the information has been gotten, then I ask my students then to go into the paper and read the flow of the paper, how it was done, if it is an experiment, how it was set up and everything. But to get the information like he's asking, effective way to get an information from journals or other research papers when we are reviewing it, I would recommend that start with the title, go to the abstract, then the conclusion. There you can get almost all the information you need from a paper. That's how I advise my students.
I agree with the method because I do advise the same. Yes.
Yeah, I would also like to share with the students. Yeah, actually, Dr. Alia has done a session on literature review 2 weeks ago. Yeah. So for those of you who have the access to the recording, please go back and review what we have discussed. But I also like to share a tip with all of you when you read journal articles. Yeah, normally when we do our study, we have key journals that we refer to. I mean, these journals are very close to the research area that we're doing. So perhaps you have, depending on the variables in communication, we go by the variables. When you do your literature review, you will group the journal articles based on the variables that you were studying. So you group them accordingly. And then when you read the anchor sort of journal articles that you refer to for your study, this are like the journal articles that at the back of your hand, because you read them in and out because they're so close to what you're doing. All right. So you can always check the references that this article uses. All right. So go and read the original article. But that's also one way how you can look at the relevant references, the relevant articles that you can refer to. Those journal articles that you're reading, please check the reference at the back of the journal article, and then you'll be able to see more. And from there you refer again to the list of references used by that journal article in the back of the article. So that's how you can get access to a lot of different articles which are relevant to your study. But of course there are many ways of doing it. So that's how we can share here. Right. Anything else? Any questions to Dr. Alia? or else, yeah, or if you're still thinking of questions, yeah, you can, we can go back to that. But before that, guys, I'm sharing with you. Can you see the list of activities here that I'm sharing? Yes? Can you see the list of activities I'm sharing here? Everybody? Yes? No?
We can see, Doctor.
Okay, all right, thank you. So this would be the list of activities organized by the center. Okay, we had one completed 2 weeks ago, and we have one to be completed shortly. And on the 14th of December, we're going to have one talk, which is Graduate on Time, the Academics Perspective. Yeah, and during, these will be the speakers. Yeah, TS Dr. Sazwan Shafiq Mazlan, Dr. Zulkifli, and TS Dr. Mai Nur Sharida. Yeah, so this will be the details. Again, I will share the poster and whatnot. Okay, and we're going to have another talk on the 28th. This is using reference management system, which is Mendeley. Yeah, how we can use this reference management system to manage our references. Yeah, the in-text citation as well as the list of references at the back of our dissertation or thesis. Yeah, and the speaker is Dr. Gulnush. This is more like a workshop kind of thing. You can have a hands-on experience. Yeah, all right. And then we're going to have a research proposal writing. Yeah, for those whose research proposal is due next semester or even this semester, please be reminded to join this session. Yeah, so that you can look at the important tips. Yeah, or the important areas. Yeah, points that you need to consider in developing your research proposal. All right, and this is postgraduate colloquium. We'll be having this on the 19th to 20th of January next year. This is an annual colloquium. All right, I'll be sending an email for the specifics. Okay, but please make yourself available on the 19th and 20th of January. This is compulsory, yeah, for all postgraduate students by research. Okay, by research. All right, because you need to present your research progress. Yeah, so by research refers to all PhD programs, yeah, and a few master's programs, which are Master of Civil Engineering, Master of Electronics Engineering, and Master of Science in Built Environment. Yeah, right. There'll be more details coming. Yeah. But here we will have a session by an alumni, yeah, hopefully, who will be sharing graduate on time tips. Yeah, the student graduated within 3 years. All right. So we are going to look at the GOT. We are going to be looking at GOT from the academics perspective, and during colloquium, we'll be listening to our own fellow friend, yeah, or alumnus, yeah, on his experience completing his PhD in 3 years. Yeah, so some tips and interesting experience there. All right. And we're going to have a renowned speaker from outside, Professor Dr. Normaliza, inshallah, yeah, who will be delivering a talk on publication. Yeah, so there will be 2 series, yeah, series 1 and also series 2. Okay, and more details will be shared with all students, yeah, as we go along. So please, if you're not part of the postgraduate WhatsApp group yet, please do so, join us, yeah, so that you will not miss all these important announcements. And not only this kind of session serves to provide you with information, yeah, and additional, yeah, knowledge, yeah, but also for you guys to see that these are your friends here, our comrades on our postgraduate journey. This is our PhD, our master students, yeah, this is our postgraduate community. We are here for each and every one of you. You're not alone on this journey, yeah, we will meet. That's why I have arranged for the talks to be conducted, yeah, once every 2 weeks, yeah, or once every 3 weeks, so that you get to see the others, so that you have the momentum going. Sometimes when you do research, you tend to sort of lose the momentum in between, yeah, but by attending this kind of session, it will get you back on your feet, yeah, so that it helps you to keep focus, yeah, and also to continue with your research and so on and so forth, yeah. All right, okay, anything else, fellow students? And participants, yeah, because not all are students here, and we even have participants from outside of IUKL, yeah. All right, anything else? So don't forget to fill out the attendance list one more time, yeah, so that we can email you the slides and also the recording. Okay, so before we end the session, once again, thank you so much to Dr. Siti Noralia. She volunteered herself, yeah, to share her knowledge, yeah, with the postgraduate community in IUKL. We cannot thank you enough, Dr. Alia. Thank you so much. Yeah, we hope to see you again. Yeah, in perhaps next semester. Yeah, we look at topics that you're comfortable delivering and sharing. All right. So thank you again, Dr. Siti Noralia. All right, we really appreciate your time. We really appreciate your commitment to our students here. Yeah, Dr. Alia has, I think, 3 classes today. Yeah. And she managed to slot in, yeah, this session for our students. So thank you so much. All right. And for the students, okay, take care of yourself. Yeah, keep the momentum going. Yeah, don't give up. If you need support, please, yeah, say something in the postgraduate group. All right, there will be someone at least who will respond to you. Yeah, don't give up. If you come to a white wall, you know, Prof. Farida used to share with me, yeah, that in our journey, in undertaking our research, yeah, you will run so excitedly, yeah, run and run and run, and then there'll be a time you will start walking. There will time you will start, you know, you will start crawling and you will stop sometimes because you see a white wall. I always remember that Prof. Farida told me, yeah, there'll be a white wall blocking you from progressing. You don't know where to go from there. All right. So don't just cry and sit down near the wall. You got to cross that wall. Whether you are going to climb or whether you're going to hack that wall, you got to do something about that wall. And how to do something about that wall, that is the function of your supervisor. Talk to your supervisor, yeah. And you also have the entire community here. We don't know everything in the world. We are normal human beings, but we can find out and help you with whatever that you're working on. But please, guys, if ever you see that wall, don't just cry and, you know, stop and just cry yourself near the wall. You got to do something about that wall. So long that you don't cross that wall, you're not going to move anywhere. And the next thing you know, it's already 1 semester, it's already 2 semesters, and you are still there, yeah, crying next to the wall. Okay, that wall is always there. It's always going to be there. The moment you cross that wall, you're going to run excitedly again. Yeah. And you're going to see that wall again. That's the process. And that is the process of learning how to cross the wall, yeah, how to whatever, hack the wall or climb over the wall, whatever the process is, that is the learning process. All right. And that is the function of your supervisor, the function of postgraduate community to support you, yeah, because your journey is not just about knowledge, yeah. It is the, what to call that, it's earning beyond the knowledge, yeah. So ever you see that white wall blocking you, yeah, don't just keep silent there. Talk to someone, yeah. Our community is here to support you, yeah. Like I said, we don't know everything under the sky, yeah, but we will find ways, yeah, to get information and to support you in any way that we can. It is a small community we have here in IUKL, and we care for one another. All right. So as the Dean, I hope that you are doing okay. Again, if you need help, yeah, please let us know. Don't just sit in one corner, yeah, at the wall and cry yourself, not moving for 2 or 3 semesters. Don't do that to yourself. The longer you drag the journey, you know, the more painful it's going to be. Trust me. Yeah, so yep. All right, thank you so much. Yeah, again, yeah, Dr. Alia, Dr. Elisha, yeah, and we have Miss Nalina, some lecturers joining us. We even have Prof. Farida joining us. Yeah, we have a former lecturer of IUKL, Madam Siti Farah, yeah, joining us. Yeah, so yeah, all right. We are very happy to have all of you. So fellow students, I'll see you again in 2 weeks' time. Okay, so meantime, progress, all right? Work on your thesis, work on your dissertation. For students by coursework, yeah, work hard, yeah, on your whatever subjects you're doing this semester. Keep your CGPA good, yeah, above 3.0, yeah, and yeah, always stay focused in your study. I'll see you again in 2 weeks' time, all right? So you take care and stay safe wherever you are, guys. All right, I'll see you again, yeah? Bye-bye.
Thank you.